Attention. Welcome to the Different Spectrums podcast. We dive into the wild world of mental health discussions. Get ready for profound talks, a sprinkle of humor and sarcasm, and a touch of colorful language. Just a quick heads up, our show reflects our individual opinions, which may not align with the standpoint of the podcast, our featured guests, or any related corporate entities. Our mission? To illuminate through laughter and satire because everyone needs a good chuckle. Chill out and don't stress over the small stuff. Legal troubles? No, thank you. Cancel culture? Please spare us. We'd rather keep this space lawsuit free. So buckle up, have a good time, and join us as we navigate the vibrant realm of mental health on the Different Spectrums podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. By using our link, you can get 10% off your first month of therapy. So, Naz, as a therapist on BetterHelp, what has your experience been like?
I've been doing it since January of 2021, and it's been really fun and exciting. I've been able to reach clients all over the United States and the world. I've had good relationships. I've had folks that I've had for a couple months and a good handful where I've had for almost 2 years now. So it's magnificent. I've enjoyed my time and my clients. I love them.
Awesome. You can do it all from your phone or computer via phone call, video chat, or messaging, however you feel the most comfortable. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/DSP or choose Different Spectrums podcast during sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Hey everybody, we back again.
Hey, we're back. We're live.
I'm Spencer. Of course, we have our licensed clinical therapist, Naz.
Dr. Big Buddha Nas. Almost like I said Big Booty Nas.
I thought you did.
No, Buddha. Shout out to the fat guys.
Whatever, don't take us too seriously.
Or do. It's completely up to you.
Also, don't forget to run up those likes for us. We'd really appreciate it. So, for today, before we get into the movie, we have a special guest. She has over 10 years' experience in the mental health field. She is a licensed clinical professional counselor, as well as a certified intuitive eating counselor. She's also known on Instagram as the Fat Positive Therapist. Please welcome to the show, Kayla Stansberry.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the show, Kayla. Thank you for being on. We appreciate it.
For having me.
All right. Awesome. Let's get into it. So today we are doing the movie Heavyweights, the Disney classic Heavyweights. Some things that we're going to be covering today. It's going to be Fatphobia. We're going to be talking about binging. And we're going to talk about losing weight or not. You know, we're gonna talk about it, right? We have a lot of great other topics to talk about, but before we get into that, Naz, anything before we get into the show?
Yeah, so we got multiple scenes. So technically this one, the quicker scenes, but this is going to be a longer episode when it comes to scene content. And you'll be able to see them all because Disney doesn't really block any of the stuff. So that's awesome. But we're going to talk about how it impacts relationships, you know, how it impacts specifically women. How people shame folks into thinking they can't date anyone outside of their weight class. We're going to talk about binging and maybe restricting. We're going to talk about how I thought all parties was going to be in college. You know, we're going to be holding subs and shit up in there getting, you know, past the meat sandwich.
It's a dream, really.
I know. Right? My first date. I'm like, girl, we're going to China One. China One. That's the buffet.
The buffet.
Oh man, this show makes me hungry, bro. We're gonna talk about where we hide our candies, you know, because we got them hidden everywhere. Fat people, you know, we got, you know. Hey, it might just be a Mexican thing too. Grandma just had candy. That's a grandma thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Mexican grandma thing. I
It's
think it's just a grandma thing.
Yeah, girl, I got all the food. Yeah, so it's gonna have a lot of fun and jokes today. But we're actually gonna have Kayla dive into some real issues and some stuff that affects a lot of us. Me growing up a big boy, and then getting really big and quote unquote fat. Right. And then just a lot of stuff that we go through. A lot of my clients that go through this body dysmorphia too, and all the shit that the system puts on us. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to talk about it. This will be the official trigger warning though, in case these are touchy topics for you, then, be prepared. We're going to get in depth into this. And if you don't want to watch the scenes because they're making fun of folks that are fat and you got issues and people bullying you, physical, mental, sexual abuse, any of those things, then this won't be the pod for you if it's too triggering. You'll go to one of the other ones that we got. We got a lot of magnificent podcasts. All right. There's that. Let's do it. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Hey.
Nice. There you go.
Shawty. I don't know. Let's get to the show.
Heads up! Here's another
Hey,
one.
booty butt. How was your year, chicken legs?
Not funny, okay, guys?
Really? Why are they teasing him?
That's a counselor named Tim. He used to be one of us, but then he lost weight. So we like to give him a hard time about it. He's cool, though.
Let's hear it.
Hey, Tim.
Come on.
What happened? Did you have a baby?
Oh, that's funny, Just because I got these great skinny buns of steel. Woo, look at that, all tight and taut. I bet you wish they were yours, don't you? Take a look, boys. The envy of the entire camp up there is the bald eagle, which is a symbol of freedom.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Julie, the new nurse.
Pat.
Pat, I'm a little lost. Can you tell me where the infirmary is?
Let's see. No.
Oh, well, I'll find it. Nice to meet you.
Pat, you've been coming here since you were 10, and you don't know where the infirmary is? Hurry up!
I panicked.
Pat, what are we gonna do with you, man?
Help me with these bags, all right? All right. Garner,
Yeah?
let's get working on this trunk.
Okay. That was very sneaky of you. Chipmunks, download now! New kid! Yo! Come on over here! Get these salamis off my back! They really hurt! Hey, Philip, look at this. Oh, it's pretty nice, Nicholas, but, look at this. Yes! Crikey. I mean, it's too hot in that bus. This is definitely not sanitary. Oh, everyone, grab a taste of England, guys!
Of the United States of America.
He's from England.
Being an only child, educated entirely by private tutors my whole life, I'm looking forward to interacting with children for the first time. I'm gonna teach you, and I bet you might teach me a little something also. Now, those of you from Western Pennsylvania probably know my father, Tony Perkis Sr., the lighting fixture king. All of the lights you'll see around this camp have been donated by him. But I'm gonna do old Dad one better. I'm not gonna give you a light. I'm gonna show you the light. And to help me do it, let's meet the new staff of Camp Hope, Team Perkins. All right, stand proud, boys. Hey, who wants to be on TV, huh? That's Kenny the cameraman. Hey there, Kenny. If all goes according to plan, we're gonna turn this summer into the #1 weight loss infomercial in the country.
You're kidding.
Kids, at age 12, I weighed 319 pounds. I had bad skin, low self-esteem, and no self-respect. Now, I eat success for breakfast with skim milk. Pounds are gonna fly, and fat is out of here, mister! And we are gonna do it together!
Oh my God.
141 pounds, Jerry Garner. Weight loss goal, 17 pounds. Please step down. Very fat, I see. 160 pounds. Weight loss goal, 23 pounds. Oh, my. Whoa. Congratulations, Mr. Sims. You're the fattest boy in camp.
All right, let's hear it.
Get down! 5 1/4. Big smile. Turn around to your side. Please put your fat finger down. You've broken my camera.
So he can humiliate us into losing weight. Pray for me, Grandma. Love, Jerry. Just get out of here.
We can't, man. They're guarding the door.
Rock and roll. This sugar-free punch, this bites.
How much more of this are they gonna subject us to before we can leave?
Why don't those guys just lose weight?
Why don't you show them how to throw up after meals like you do?
Shut up. You shut up. No, you
You
shut
guys
up.
stop it.
Go get him, Captain.
Hello, Gerald. Moment of truth. You've gained 9 pounds. Have you been cheating? Turn off the camera. Let me make something very clear. The Perkins system does not work with cheaters like Gerald Garner, okay? How can I sell an infomercial about fat kids who can't keep their piggy little snouts shut? Who's gonna buy that, huh? Step off the scale. Okay, turn on the camera. Josh Birnbaum, step on up. Get on the scale, son. All right. Get off the scale.
Okay, then.
Turn off the camera. All right. All right, fine. I blame myself. You know what? I don't blame myself. No, not this time, Tony. Excuse me 1 second. How you doing, little Tony? Bad? Why do you feel bad? Because everything's falling apart and I can't do anything about it? It's not your fault. I know it's not my fault, but whose fault is it if it's not my fault? It's their fault. That's right, it's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. You have failed, and you will pay. Whoa. Tomorrow morning at 0600, everyone who has not met their weight loss goal will join me on a 20-mile hike.
What?
Pack light, boys. The party's over.
20 miles? Tony, sir, with all due respect, look, I don't think it's healthy to subject the
Healthy?
kids.
Oh, healthy. Ooh, the fat man is gonna tell me what's healthy.
Look, I'm just saying that I think to subject the kids...
You know what? It's funny, nobody really cares what you have to say. You're a negativity spreader. You're contaminating my well, Finley, and I won't have it.
Let's make the best of this afternoon.
Forget it, Pat. Come on.
Thought they were supposed to be on diets.
I think they're cheating.
Good God, can anybody hear me?
Time to wake up, children. Good morning! Now, who wants to tell us the lesson we learned here?
Don't put Twinkies on your pizza.
No. I think what we learned here is something about personal responsibility. From now on, each of us is going to be in charge of their own diets. We all have to learn some self-control. Isn't that right? Tim?
You got it. I'm ashamed of all of you.
Come on. We got to get healthy for ourselves. If we start respecting ourselves, no one can touch us. That's right. You heard me right. We're as good as anybody. And it's about time we started acting that way. We got to take control of ourselves before we take control of this camp. So who's with me, huh? Who wants to do this thing right? It's up to you.
Hey everyone, have you been looking for something to help you when you feel extra fidgety? How about when you have a sensory overload? Well, I'm here to introduce you to the Oh No Fidget Roller. It helps me regulate and also feel at ease. The Oh No Roller comes in 5 different materials, including plastic, aluminum, steel, titanium, and silicone. You can use our code DSP10 to get 10% off your order when you visit onoroller.com and get your roll on.
And we're back again.
We're back and we're live. Just like my beat is after watching this show.
Yep.
This is the only show that will make you get the sugars.
Yep. Willy Wonka didn't do that.
Oh, that'll get you too. Yeah.
I also love that you try to bring up that one of the kids, the English kid.
Well, tell me that little
Willy
English boy
Wonka.
didn't look like the Willy Wonka boy.
He didn't.
He did not look like Willy Wonka.
He did.
He just had a part in his hair and he was fat.
You know,
That was it.
you know, all white people look the same. You know.
I mean, I can't. Yeah, that's true.
The first guy was German in the movie, Augustus Gloop, and this kid was English. Made no sense.
It was close. That's one of the Mary Poppins motherfuckers. I knew it. I knew it.
Now Mary Poppins. Which one is it?
I don't know. All right, let's get into the show.
Dick Van Dyke? Oh, here we go. All right. So before we get into the show, we'd love to know a little bit more about our guest, Kayla. So would love to know, how did you get into the mental health field those 10 years ago?
That's a good one. I actually went to school to be a teacher, and then I realized I couldn't handle that many people at one time. And so very quickly jumped ship to psychology, and I made it where I only applied to one graduate school, and I said, if I don't get in, I'll move to California. And here I am, like 12 years later, no, 13, 14 years later, licensed and still in Maryland. So
there you go.
Worked out.
All right. Yeah. So, you talk about how, you are a fat positive therapist. How did you get into that field of mental health?
What the hell does that even mean first? Sorry.
There you go.
And then talk about that.
Fat positive therapist. Yeah. So I actually started off as the intuitive therapist, but I didn't feel like it made my message clear enough, which was that it's okay to be in a larger body, and you don't see fat and positive together, and you definitely don't see it within the mental health field. So it became really important to force it down people's throats because I want people to see mental health providers approving versus shaming of different lifestyles.
Facts.
Yeah. So like you said, like you kind of have to be like very blunt about what you're saying. Did you ever get like a lot of pushback from being that blunt about talking about like just being fat positive?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And because I specialize in working with larger body people, but I do work with everyone because I also work with autistic individuals. So I don't always do this work. So it's interesting when that it collides and they don't understand like how deep I am into this. And we're having to meet somewhere in the middle of, okay, well, it's actually okay to be in a larger body, and diets don't particularly work long-term for most people, and research supports that. So there definitely is pushback because people are absolutely terrified to be considered fat. And when you're facing that fear head on, it takes a lot of like bravery and courage to do it.
For real.
Yeah.
Question real quick. You identified earlier in the pre-production that you said, right, you used certain words like, what'd you say? Slim thick? You said slim thick. Didn't that what you said?
I mean, I kind of like that a bit more, but I used the fat spectrum. So the fat spectrum considers oppression in that depending on how large you are in your body, it is the lack of accessibility you'll receive and the oppression you'll receive from your environment, which is going to impact my privilege. So I'm probably on the line of like a small and mid fat, and the scale it starts at size 16, I think, in that I can get things at stores. Most of the time can fit in an airplane seat. I have a lot of privilege within this community, and it's really important that I say that because there's always going to be a piece of the puzzle I'm going to miss.
That makes sense.
And it goes all the way up to infinity fat, which is 6X plus, and those individuals often are victims of medical malpractice, very oppressive experiences, don't have access to clothing or accessibility. It's really bad.
That makes sense. As soon as you start talking about not fitting in this shit and clothing and all that, I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm with you now. And so have you always been in this body, or is this like this a new thing for you, just trying out this fad of being, plus size?
No, like fat from birth. I call it fat kid vibes.
There you go.
Because the trauma experience is a bit different. I mean, it's traumatizing in general to exist in a larger body in our society. But based on your intersectionality, and I imagine length of time you're in a fat body is probably one of them, is that if you go through childhood in a fat body, it's extremely different than like if you are in a larger body as you get older. I mean, it's both traumatizing, but the trauma lies in different parts of your development.
That's what I thought.
So yes, I was a big kid.
I'll kick it back to Spencer. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, so this movie, Heavyweights, is about a kid going to fat camp, right? what are your thoughts on fat camps in general? I don't even know if are they still around. I have no idea.
Oh my gosh, I hope not, but I bet they are. I have no doubts that they probably are. I remember being younger and dreaming of going because it sounded so amazing. There was that MTV show, I think I forgot what it was called, but they filmed Fat Camp and you got to follow the people around and they looked cool. They dated each other. They like all kind of were at a place where everyone knew that they were fat, so it wasn't like a secret or something you couldn't acknowledge. It seemed a little on the freeing side, except for the oppressive food and movement stuff, but the social life sounded kind of fun. But as far as them existing, they're pretty abusive.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Like, in what ways are they abusive? If you don't mind kind of going into that.
Well, if you think about it, they're encouraging heavy restriction. And depending on who's running them, if they are a certified dietitian or someone that understands like genetic composition, it would take a lot to encourage safe relationships around food and movement without causing disordered relationships with food and eating disordered like behaviors.
Yeah, it's a good verbiage. I like how you said that right there. Yeah, like I said that because as soon as you start pairing this with clients, you're like, oh, the disorder starts to form and then take over, and now it's like an obsession, and which we're going to get to a little bit later, how folks that lose weight end up becoming very, very like just nasty. And I didn't really experience that with folks until recently. I was like, God damn, kid, you're an asshole. Like, I don't even want to work with you. I'm like, no, man. And the kid didn't want to work with me either. After the intake, I'm like, yeah, you gotta go see Rebecca, bro. You ain't working with me. Talking all that shit about fat people. Nah, man. Nah. Rebecca. Oh yeah, no. I was like, no. He's like, I think I should work with someone else. I'm like, yep.
Agreed.
Oh, I can't do it, kid. Sorry, Spence. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I mean, so like you said, with the data and everything like that, like dietitians and just diets in general, they don't last long, right? But like, what in your eyes, like, what is a good way to kind of stay healthy, but then also kind of keep like who you are when you have that, fat positive thinking?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's where the certified intuitive eating part comes in, is that naturally we all are born with a pretty healthy relationship with food and with movement. We're born wanting to move our bodies. We're born being able to really listen to our bodies. If I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm not hungry, I stop. But when we start adding the psychology around dieting and around how we moralize food as good or bad, then you see more of the obsessive behaviors and eating past our fullness thresholds because it's a holiday or because we're using food to celebrate something or a coping skill, which those aren't actually bad things, but our culture is very fixated on using food in this way and then shaming people for having boundaries around food. So it's like a kind of a perfect storm, a recipe for disaster, where if we were left alone and given a lot of options for food, arguably we would have a more balanced relationship. And you find that a lot of the foods that you might have fixated on before finding neutrality with food, you don't particularly like that much anymore because you were just liking it based on the dopamine high. And not saying that some food isn't absolutely delicious because you're supposed to find pleasure from food. But the psychology mind game of it is also present and needs to be considered.
Yeah.
Spence, real quick, is that a thing? Do people get dopamine shots from eating all food or just certain foods that you really like?
Me?
Yeah. No, Spence. No, I was telling Spence. I was like, damn, did y'all freeze? Did she freeze?
Yes, food definitely gets dopamine. That's why you see that with ADHD people when they snack, it's because the ADHD brain is a deficit of dopamine, so they're seeking some type of oral nourishment or something and you also get it from the food. So when someone's like, I broke up with someone, I'm going to eat a pint of ice cream, that's because they're getting dopamine from that ice cream and that's helping them feel better, which isn't, again, inherently bad thing. There's like meth, there's worse things that we could be doing, but that is that it gets vilified to a point where it becomes out of control.
Yeah. I didn't do a pound of heroin. I don't think that's the thing. But you know, God forbid I eat a bag of fucking Doritos. You know, I'm a fucking sinner. I eat a bag of Doritos.
Crazy.
You know,
I'll be honest, that Dorito breath is pretty fucking deadly. Let me tell you. Like,
it's better than heroin breath. I don't know what that smells like.
I don't know what heroin.
I'm not shaming anyone. I'm not shaming anyone that does any drugs, but you know,
hey, I'm not shaming anyone that does heroin.
Don't do it.
All right, you want to do heroin?
Hey, real quick, like if you are neurodivergent or autistic, be very cautious of certain drugs because they can pull out some psychotic breaks. Schizophrenia is bipolar. I know a lot of dissociations can happen. Right, we can get lost in those anxious spirals. Like me, that's when I just when I dabble in the the kush, the devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce.
Sometimes I'll be like, I'm about to die. Everyone knows I'm about to die. Yep. So just be very cautious because the weed these days and all the drugs, right? I have a lot of students that are autistic. They're like, hey man, I'm thinking about trying these mushrooms. And I'm like, I'm not going to shame you. Just be cautious, go someone knows what they're doing or something like that, right? And then we start doing some genetic, not testing, but like background, like making sure you got any crazy shit in your family. Okay. Ain't got no murderers, do you? Well, you ain't coming back to get my ass if you get too high. Okay, I'm done. But I just wanted to know, do we get dopamine? And we do.
Absolutely.
There we go. What happens when we get too full? I know you're not like a dietitian. And what happens when we get too full? Because that's a great fucking feeling when you get too full.
I don't like it, but I mean I don't know. When you get too full, there's discomfort in your stomach and bloating and all of those things, which aren't bad, but they can feel uncomfortable. And then it also makes it hard to figure out what you need from your body if you are past your fullness threshold.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, back to you, Spence.
All right. So what made you want to pick the movie Heavyweights? Like, what about it really kind of spoke to you than other films?
Well, it's a classic. And it is just just blatantly fatphobic. And they do it in such an endearing way. The movie is a really good balance of, especially for its time when it was created and launched into the world, it does a really good job at humanizing fat people, and also being incredibly fatphobic at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I remember I've never heard this take before, but I thought about it, Spence, on one of my favorite shows is New Girl. And someone said, no, New Girl's fatphobic as shit. I'm not watching that stuff. I was like, hold up now. And I look back on it and I was like, there's a lot of weird episodes with Nick being fat and they make fun of his body and Cece being super thin and they're making, so I was like, maybe, but I don't know if it's full fatphobic. Well, then maybe it is. Spencer, what do you think? I know you're like, shut up.
I love it. They talk about it. Look, everybody gets smoke on that show. Literally everybody. Chicagoans, fucking Bears fans, Bulls fans.
Yeah.
White people, black people, Indian people.
They make fun of everyone.
Schmidt he does Indian accents like all the time. Like to be like, look, Schmidt and all the characters, what's funny and great about the show is that everybody has a chance to be talked about in the show. And I appreciate that because you know what? They're not focusing on just one person, one body, any of that. They're focusing on everybody. And you know what? I have more respect for that than just going after one.
Then that would be weird.
Body type. And that'd be weird.
That'd be fucked up.
But you know what? They make fun of everybody. So I'm like, and they call Schmidt a douche all the time because he was acting like a douche.
He was.
And he was skinny and he was acting like a douche. But when he was a fatter guy, he was nice and everybody loved him. But then once he got skinny, he became an asshole. So
that's something that we're going to talk about later too. That's why I tied it in, is that weight loss and that transition mentally. But so I was going to ask you the serious question. So when your clients, maybe they'll bring up a show or a movie, or maybe you've experienced it, or maybe it's one of your favorite creators and you're like, damn, I'm not watching this shit anymore. Have you had that happen?
all the time, because even I love New Girl, so I'm here with you on that one. But fat phobia is in every show. Like it's very it's so normalized as a way to shame people that it's not even thought about. Someone once did like a compilation, I think it was on TikTok. It was like 5 minutes of scenes from all like the early 2000s sitcoms of the man telling the woman that he would still love her if she got fat. Like it was in 5 different shows and it was the same line. And you're just like, oh, shit. Like, that's an awful thing to be planting into people's brains, that your value as a woman or as a partner is that you should stay the same size. So a lot, and it makes absorbing a lot of media really, really challenging, because if you're like enjoying a good book, and some people in some books are super obsessive about like fat shaming its characters, and you're just like, oh, crap, now I gotta stop reading this because it's exhausting. I don't want to hear about it.
I wonder if other people, like skinny people, obviously internalize it, just like with racism. Right? It doesn't just affect brown and black folk; it affects white folk too. What me and Spence talked about in the pod a long time ago from Atlanta, that scene, right? It destroys their own identity and the anxiety and the fear and all that shit. And so I would assume that even skinny folks get affected by this too, right? Because it's what keeps some of them
absolutely
super, super, super skinny. And we see a lot of eating disorders. Like, you know, I guess technically they would say fat folks would have atypical eating disorder or atypical restricting or something like that.
And that's in and of itself a problem, is that eating disorders don't have a weight limit. Is that you can have a full-blown eating disorder and be in a large body. And there's and the mental health field is really broken in that way, because the BMI is bullshit and doesn't mean anything, and incredibly racist. And to sort of have that as a modifier for like how we diagnose people. It's hard to meet a fat person who hasn't had an eating disorder related dynamic because of how they were treated around food.
Yep. Spence asked something a second ago. I want you to maybe clarify this real quick. So when it comes to these diets, right? And Spence said, you know, maybe they don't work or they're fads. Do people go on a lot of diets? I already know the answers to this, obviously. Do people go on a lot of diets, and do they actually work? Are they long-term, these things, or no? Is it bad? What the hell? Explain that.
People diet as if it's a religion. And my clients, they go on their first diet by the time they're 12. And so diets are and diets cause more problems with your body. They actually raise your natural weight point because of the restriction and binge cycle. So if you think about our bodies from a very like evolutionarily perspective, is if you are restricting, your body thinks that you're dying, you're in a famine. It's like, oh, you're in the winter and you don't have access to food, right? So it's going to hold on as much as it can. And then when you eventually break, because your body is smarter than you and it will break you, you will then overindulge in food, and you'll overindulge in foods that are concentrated in higher fats, because that's going to sustain your body through another winter. And so your body's like, yeah, I'm going to keep you alive. But the dieting world has taught you to do this instead. So each time you say you were to lose X amount of weight, each time you go back into the binge cycle of it, your body will add like 10 to 20 pounds onto its natural set point as a way to keep you safe. And if you keep doing that, some people, like some of us, are in larger bodies than what would have been natural if we didn't engage in yo-yo dieting.
Yo-yo dieting. That's what it's called.
Yep. Yeah. And we've all been convinced that it's like our fault because of willpower, but it's hard to meet someone who's like lost weight and sustained it, or that has engaged in a rigid food behavior long-term that isn't autistic and has specific foods.
Yeah. Kick it back to you, Spence.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into the show.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that I ask during the clips, because the clips are magnificent.
Yes. So, if you haven't seen the cult classic Heavyweights, it is about this young boy whose name is Jerry, who he's a fat kid. He's a fat kid. All right.
There's a big old
no
boy.
way around that.
He a big one.
He's a big old boy, and so the first day that we see him, school's out, summer vacation, and then he misses his bus, and a kid yells out, like, ah, ha, ha, like fat kid can't catch the bus or something really dumb. So you wanted to touch on this scene. We didn't show it, but you wanted to touch on it. What do you want to kind of cover about this scene?
That it was, I think it was 1 minute and 26 seconds before the first fat joke was made. Like that, it was very quick, and you are taught to conflate clumsiness, stupidity, or not being athletic with being fat.
Damn. Well, that was right to the point. Well, fuck you then, Kayla. Shit.
You ain't shit if you fat.
Yeah. You must not have seen offensive and defensive linemen. I'll put it on you now.
Y'all are uncoordinated.
Yeah.
I ain't uncoordinated, motherfucker. I might have hit a stump today, but I'm coordinated. Yeah, fucking boulder. How do I miss a boulder in the parking lot?
Well, you just speak to Kayla's point.
It's because I'm fat. I couldn't see it because the fat was clouding my eyes.
That's why.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So maybe ask your insurance if there's a deductible for that.
Yeah. I got the fat cheeks.
Probably add on money.
Yeah, probably add on money. That motherfucker's too heavy for the car.
Like,
son of a bitch. I'm surprised that's not a thing.
Anyways.
Yeah, real quick though, because based on what you said, you get it right off the bat. It's right off the bat. And you're right. I see myself, chubby self, chasing the bus, right? That's a visual that I see. That embarrassment, that shame, you're running, you fucking sweating everywhere when you get on there. Everyone's laughing at you, right? You got the under boob sweat, the side boob, the top of the boob sweat. Yeah,
it's the struggle it is to endure your body is associated with fatness versus if like a skinny kid would have done that, he probably would have been equally as sweaty. Depending on his.
And
I find it weird though. I think it's like at like a certain age, like. And depending on if you play sports or not, like fatness is seen as an asset rather than a determinant, right? So like if you play football or something.
And just football. Yeah.
Yeah. Football. I mean, wrestling, you might do that too. Wrestling. Also, rugby, stuff like that. But I mean, not a lot of places do rugby. But, I think.
There's also a lot of different rules for men in general. So you guys can be fat. And you have that opportunity, and it can be if they find a way to make it useful.
Yep.
Whereas femme presenting individuals or femme socialized individuals often don't get that option.
Yeah. And in wrestling, the only weight division you can be chunky in, Spence, is just heavyweight. Because it's 270 and up. So like, right. Because otherwise you're just blown. You're going to be facing someone strong as shit. And you're just going to be sitting there with that fat weight. It's not going to work.
No.
So, bro, I would face dudes in wrestling. That was their and boy, they would whip my fucking ass, boy. Because I was a big 270, and these were like hulked out. I'm like, I got them. Nope, flip. But Spence, continue what you were saying. If you remember.
Yeah, I just, I think that, like you said, men can have an advantage to that, and it's seen as a positive light. And I think there's an age limit, right? And then also, for men also, if you can talk, right? If you can talk and you have like confidence in yourself, it doesn't really matter really what weight you are. Like we're big boys, me and Nas, and we can talk our way through stuff and things like that. So in some ways you can use it as an asset and even use it as a way to kind of get into conversations, right? Like, if I'm at a party and I have like a plate of like a lot of food, I'd be like, all of it's free. It's like,
Well, I think we are socialized as fat folks, if we're playing into this right now, is to be the funny one. If you're fat, you better be funny.
Yeah.
Right. We see it.
Gotta bring something to the table.
Something to the table, right? You see it all the time with women, right? When they're like the sidekick of the skinny girl, right? And then always the fat cuddly one or the funny one, the Amy Schumer type vibe, right? Never the real the Barbie thing, right? That's what I was thinking. But real quick, I wanted to point out something. Me and Spence went to Universal. And on Disney, fit all the rides. Everything was awesome, having a blast. Went to Universal. I ain't fit shit.
No,
and
terrible.
Yep.
And it was horrible. It was embarrassing. I had to get on the ride. And then when I got into the ride, they're like, hey, man, you're going to have to go.
Yeah.
So they got those.
It's like a walk of shame.
Bro, when you got to get off the ride and everyone watches you.
It's a walk of shame. Yeah, absolutely.
And
I almost didn't fit some of those rides. It was crazy.
And so Spencer's body's, proportioned differently. A lot of folks are, to the eye, they look way bigger based on how their bodies. But since I'm very chest heavy and back heavy, lift a lot of weights. So like I take up a lot of space on the top. And so that makes it to where most of the things don't fit, right? It just, none of the contraptions fit. And so I'm like, technically they're like, oh, you should fit. And then as soon as they're like, oh shit, but you're like wide, barrel chested. And it's just horrible. The Harry Potter one, the Doctor Doom, all the Harry Potter ones, the Doctor Doom ones didn't fit. I was like,
I think it was the Hulk one too.
Yeah, the Hulk one. I was like, oh, this is terrible, man. So they gave me some free tickets and shit for other rides, but it was, it sucked. I ain't gonna lie, it sucked.
It did.
Yeah. But like I said, why don't fat people get to ride rides? Like, why does that get taken?
Yeah.
And it was weird that Disney was like the one that was like, everything was fine. Like we did every ride we wanted to do at Disney. No problems at all.
No problems.
It was
Go
weird.
to Universal. They're like, no, you too big.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was weird. Just that when you talked about accessibility earlier, why I don't like riding, I almost said driving planes. I fucking drive 20 hours instead of taking the plane because I'm uncomfortable being in the seat and thinking that I'm touching someone or, now that my brother's lost a good amount of weight because he had to because his diabetes and he's magnificent. He's very healthy now. But now that he's a little bit thinner, it allows us to fit better together, like on a bus ride, right? On a plane ride. So I'm a little bit less anxious. But bro, that's a horrible fear for me is fitting on them fucking planes, bro.
Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of anxiety around that because of just how much shame has been perpetuated towards fat people for something that is not FDA, or the airplanes are not regulated for seat sizing.
No.
So they just make up numbers. They don't have to be considerate at all to different people of size. So we can't control that. Each plane's going to have a different seating size arrangement, and you might fit in some, you might not fit in others. It's a gamble.
Oh, it's got to be such a nice life having to be able to fit everything. I digress. Kick it back to you, Spence.
Yeah. Just talking about heavyweights and what it's all about. I mean, Jerry, his parents send him to fat camp. And the reason why he wanted to go was because they had go-karts, right? He loves go-karts. Loves them. That's the only reason why he wanted to go.
Yep.
And to be on the blob. The blob. And so, he's on his way to fat camp, and then he meets Kenan Thompson's character while they're on a plane. And of course, that conversation. He's like, "Going to fat camp? How do you know? Because you're fat." Okay, well, good eye, sir. Good eye. And so they go to this trip, and then they also meet this guy named Pat, who's been going to the same fat camp for like 20 years or so, something like that. And now he's a counselor there. And so, going there, he meets all these different fat people, but it's going to be a fun time, right? They're going to have a great time at camp and all that. And then all of a sudden, they find out that the owners were bought out by Tony Perkins and Ben Stiller. And now that it's been bought out, it's going to be all about getting them skinny instead of them actually just having fun being around other fat people.
Yeah.
And then hijinks ensue and a bunch of other stuff happens. But yes, as one does. So one of the second scene that we wanted to get to, or the first scene, is actually when Pat, the bus driver, he's a little shy. a little shy around the ladies, right? And so they have a new nurse, and she asks him where the infirmary is. He has no idea, even though he's been there 20 years. I can't remember. So what about this scene kind of spoke to you, or why'd you want to bring it up for us today?
Yeah, that scene particularly showcases that fat people are a second choice, that he didn't feel confident in himself to speak to the nurse. Like there was an assumption that body size was a part of why he couldn't communicate and was nervous around women. And it made him feel like foolish or present foolishly. And it also kind of starts the trope of, because he is a larger bodied individual and the nurse was a thin bodied woman, is that there has been culturally more okay acceptance of a larger bodied man and a thin bodied woman as a mixed weight relationship.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
hate mixed relationships.
We don't approve of the intergenerational and international, multidisciplinary.
You stay with who exactly looks like you.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
right. That's how it goes.
Separate but equal. Separate but equal. I'm sorry. It's like, what the fuck is going on? That is all sarcasm, folks. We're having some fun. So, and being a big boy, but being anxious too. There's multiple levels on why it's just hard to talk to people, but specifically women. For me, I've segregated it in my mind into different categories. Though I can talk to anyone as long as I'm not trying to hustle them and flirt with them and like obtain them. And I found it much more humanizing for me to literally talk to anyone. And it doesn't matter how pretty or symmetrical, thin, fat, doesn't matter anymore.
Symmetrical.
Well, some folks, you're like, God damn, look at your jaw. I saw some eyebrows today on someone. I said, girl.
It's actually funny. That's a Darwinism thing and I remember learning that when I was younger, that if your face is symmetrical, you're more attractive and you're more likely to get a mate.
Yep.
And it's wildly inaccurate because people in all different body types and of all different levels of Eurocentric beauty standards, they get it. So they have relationships.
I'm telling you.
Darwin wasn't really correct on everything.
No. Yeah, some of
he didn't like
had some
black
ideas.
people.
Well, who did? Who did back then? He was a product of his times. It's not his fault.
Yes. It's okay now.
It's okay now.
As he would say, it's good people on both sides.
Here we go.
Oh my God.
Both sides.
Both sides.
Oh, son of a bitch. I've been there, right? But that's the thing is I teach a lot of my clients, especially my boys, why are you trying to always obtain someone? Why are you always trying to smooth someone? Why are you always trying to have sex with them? Like, I get it, but also can't we just have a conversation and see if we're two humans that, like each other? And it's hard for a lot of people to separate that. It doesn't matter what size and body they're in, but specifically my folks that are larger body and anxious or like insecure, this is where I start. We're having just human one-on-one contact. I don't give a shit what you look like or what they look like. We're not trying to have them. And I think that takes a lot of the pressure off too, because now we're just having conversations. But besides the point, it is intimidating, when you're trying to flirt with someone and you're like, there's no way. They're not going out with me. There's just no way. There's no, they got all the pick. And that's when Spence brings up your ability to talk. And so I can talk, but others can't. And so what if they're large, plus size, big, fat, and they're shy and anxious and like, what's the word? Shy, introverted, right? And then now what? Now they're just going to stay alone forever? Well, that's not fair.
Yeah.
And so it's a tough world for some of those folks that maybe don't have the order skills that I have or that Spence has. So I look at this scene and I'm like, I know so many college boys that fit this scene. And it's a little heartbreaking because they're like magnificent people. And I'm going to say a little joke, but it's for real. A lot of women, men too, but a lot of women will come into the office, and men too, And they'll be like, "Oh, this person's horrible. This person." And they tell me the people that they're dating. I said they all sound in my brain like them skinny little assholes at the bar. And I said, I love skinny people, love them. But I said, you want to have some fun and a good time with someone that's probably not going to beat the shit out of you, like they'll actually be a decent human. I said, go get you a big boy. Go get you a big boy. You're going to eat and you're going to chill. Not to say that, folks that are fat aren't going to be abusive, but since we've been oppressed and abused so much, our impact or our ability to have empathy and love and kindness is to me, I don't have no data on it. Do have data on trauma and empathy though. We have greater skills for empathy. And so I do tell a lot of folks like, hey man, you need some friends. You don't like going to the bar? You need to hang out with your big friends. And they'll laugh at me like, well, where do I find them? Well, let me tell you.
Let me tell you. But you actually have a point.
Go ahead.
There are studies that have done relationship satisfaction based on body size, and people in larger bodies have reported more relationship satisfaction. And a lot of the discussion is around if you have pretty privilege, right? If you're in the pretty bubble, you don't have to develop a personality because you're already being given
attention.
You're already given a pass, if you will. I'm talking about the really Eurocentric beauty standards. Yep. They might not have to develop a personality. They can kind of be a wet blanket because they're being chosen for different reasons. Where it's like fat people are, I had to have a personality or I wasn't getting anywhere.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
It makes fat people dangerous now. If you're funny and big, it makes me dangerous now. I tell people, hey, you laugh at two of my jokes, we dating now.
Jesus. You're meeting my father. What?
Hey, one of my coworkers waved at me at the gym yesterday, and I said, "Girl, I told my dad, I got the wedding invitations coming." She's like, "How do I escape from this room?"
You can't. It's locked.
Oh my God. So real quick, Kayla, have you experienced this though? Maybe when you were younger dating? I assume that you were dating in life, but I don't know. This kind of anxiousness, avoidance, kind of being baffled.
And I think from the woman's perspective, a lot of times larger bodied women don't want to be perceived at all because there's either sexual fetishization or they just don't feel safe around men, because there's a really interesting conversation around how, like you were saying, men obtaining people is that a lot of times men won't talk to women that they don't find attractive, even as like a human being. So there is that trauma of someone pretending you don't exist as a human because you are not in a thin body. And that's something I hear a lot.
Yep. See, you said something earlier. You said you see a lot of where the big dudes and then like the thinner girls. I don't pay attention to that because I always see the bigger girls with the thin dudes, and it makes me feel like shit. Like I can't.
I mean, that does work too.
I always see the thin dudes, and I'm like, these motherfuckers, man. I throw that motherfucker out a window. And then I get into all my masculinity. That's not a man. That's a boy. And I'm like, shut up. I can feel the toxicity coursing through me. Motherfucker ain't even got no chest. Let me show you what a real man is. You need one of them hairy motherfuckers like me,
You about to go Mr. T on him. Hey, woman, let me show you what a real man is.
Oh, my God. I would never.
He's about to steal that white woman. Let me tell you.
Your mind's now.
Rocky never stood a chance. He never stood a chance.
We gonna have the best time. Where are we going for our first date? China One.
God, is that just where is that? What are you talking about?
There's a China One everywhere in every city. China One.
I've never heard of that.
Hunans. There's a Hunans everywhere.
There you go. That might be a little bit more around the way,
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry.
Anyways, moving on. So then we get to the second scene that we wanted to talk about, where you start hiding food, right? And so this was even before Tony was even in the picture. So what these kids do is that they go into this fat camp and then they hide all the food in their bunks and stuff like that. And they are kind of, putting away everything just to, save it for later. So we wanted to talk about the impacts of restrictions. What are some of like the long-term effects about restrictions?
Mm-hmm. So food scarcity in general has a lot of psychological long-term impacts, and you can get food scarcity from just like not having access growing up, or from situations like this where food was taken or hidden from you. Therefore, you become fixated on the food, and you might hoard it, engage in eating past your fullness threshold. It becomes this sacred thing, which again, food is supposed to be delicious, but we've become really obsessed about it and the idea of it because we don't know when we're going to get it again. And that creates a very seeking, unhealthy dynamic with food.
Do you find often that folks do restrict, or is this just like a very not so much thing?
A lot of people restrict. Most humans have been taught the language of restriction as norm.
What's this language you talking about? I'm not bilingual. I'm not bilingual.
The language of like what? Cutting carbs, no sugar, fat-free, trans fat, like all these different fads, keto, all this stuff. It all is based around restriction and control from an outside perspective versus listening to your body and what your body wants. But the lie is that we can't trust our bodies, but you can't trust a body that's existing out of scarcity because it's fearful. Your body thinks it's dying. Your body thinks it doesn't have access to food. So it's not going to make the best balanced decisions because it doesn't think that it has access to those things.
I'm going to make a little pivot here. So when you're working with a client that's dealt with this type of like thing and they come to your office, let's say they present with some of the first couple of scenes, shy, anxious, avoidant, insecure, self-loathing, right? Kind of hate themselves because their own fatness and fat phobia, right? Because it's been internalized. What does that process even look like working with a client?
Ooh, it can look like a bunch of different things depending on if we're starting from a food perspective. I like to talk about our relationship with food. If we're working on like a self-worth perspective, I like to talk about our relationship with the word fat. And I love to educate people on the reasons that diets don't really work. And I often use their own examples. Like, so how many diets have you been on in your life? And most people will say like 10, 20. And like, how many of them worked? None. Okay. So are you this inherent failure, or is maybe the treatment not working? And we kind of play around with how society often has a different narrative. Diet culture has a different narrative because they make billions of dollars off of our self-hatred. Like they make bank off of us hating ourselves. So they're going to convince us at all costs. Even insurance companies make bank off of those things.
Yeah. Let's say I'm that person. I'm the client. And I come into the office and I'm like, you know what? Everyone's been telling me I'm this, I'm fat, I need to lose weight. My doctor's telling me I need to lose weight. My insurance is going up. I'm unhealthy, supposedly, right? And and I don't think I can get with any women or men, doesn't matter. I don't think I can get a partner because I'm too fat and too ugly. I believe that this body is an ugly body, and I don't even think that it deserves to be with anyone else. What would you say to someone that said that last little bit to you?
So much. One thing is if we are only watching one type of media, we are going to believe all of those truths. If I was just watching television, I would believe that everyone looks like what they look on Selling Sunset. Like everyone's in 10-foot heels and stick figure thin. And because that's all I'm being given, I don't get to see that other big realities exist. So I encourage everyone when they start doing this work to follow a bunch of fat people on the internet, like as many as you can possibly find, and to hide the thin ones for a little while. Okay. You can bring them back later, but right now we already have every commercial, every media, every book, they're describing it as thin people. The thin people are the default. I want you to load yourself up with fat people because arguably we do have higher numbers than the thin people. So there are more larger bodied people, or at least in the middle over number wise, like they exist, right? Yep. And then another activity I have people do is I have them go to a public place and look at all the couples that they see and make a point to be aware of the size discrepancies and attraction discrepancies, and if they're actually measuring up with what they believe, because people are attracted to all types of different people, and it's not always as accurate in the wild as what you get exposed to in television and advertising.
But therapist Kayla, I probably got a better chance though if I lose this next 20 pounds. All I gotta do is lose this 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm. I would probably encourage some exploration on a different goal that isn't weight-based. So if your goal is that you want to move more, all right, let's go for walks, man. Like, that doesn't have to do with your weight. If you want to eat more fruit or drink more water, all right, good, do that. Yeah, I like to challenge why weight is it's like the only health marker that we use to assess value.
Okay, there you go. Well, what about this shot I heard about now? I get this Ozempic now, shoot it right in my forehead. They say I'm gonna lose 50 pounds. And then
in your head?
And then right in my head. Right in my head, and then that's I'm gonna be skin thin, and then my junk gonna look bigger. Then I gotta lose weight now because I got that python now. You're gonna have
to lose a lot.
But trust me, this is what people are talking about. Is this Ozempic losing weight?
Yes,
to be more sexually attractive, to look better in certain areas. Maybe they'll get the Coke bottle look for women, right? And so, hey, you therapists, I've heard about this thing. I think it could be magnificent for me. Why shouldn't I try it?
So I don't know if it's particularly I really respect people's autonomy over their body. Okay. So if someone is like really, really into doing this, I'm going to help them process the experience. And that's something that took a lot of my own work to be able to sit and do, but it's their body at the end of the day. And I do have clients who take those things and I sit and I even lay it out because they know me, they follow me, they know that I'm loud about all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm their therapist and I'm like their ride or die. Like, we're going to figure this out together. And I get why you feel that way. Society smashes it into you. Like, it's okay to be tired and to not want to deal with it. Like, I understand.
Okay. The reason why I brought that up, and I'm going to pivot back to Spencer in the scenes, is because, I've got clients that are on it too and that want to lose weight. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do this the healthy way though. We're not doing this crazy shit. We're going to move our body a little bit more, lose a little bit of weight at a time. The goal is to get more energy to feel better, not necessarily drop 30 pounds fucking instantly. And so we monitor things, right? We don't look at the scale a lot depending on what we're doing because I got some folks with legit eating disorders. And I'm like, okay, we got to watch these numbers or not watch the numbers.
Yeah, I'm not pro using weight as a determination for any purpose other than like getting medication correct.
Yep. Good point. And so
that's the only one that I can. Yeah.
Sorry. The Ozempic thing's a real question now, right? I mean, that's everyone's getting on it. And this is self-admission, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I went on it because the doctor's like, hey, give it a shot. I said, fuck it, I'll give it a shot because it worked for my brother because he has legit diabetes and he got his numbers down, lost weight. Gave it a shot. So 1 out of 5 now, Spencer, the new numbers is 1 out of 5, has horrific side effects. Horrific.
Yep.
And mine were so bad, like I legitimately was suicidal. I'd be in the bed crying for hours and hours and hours.
Scary.
Because the pain in my abdomen was so bad. I couldn't drink water. I couldn't eat. I looked at my dad. I said, what's the point of living? If I can't eat or drink anything, I was like, this is fucking pointless. And I said, this is the only thing I enjoy.
Yeah.
And now you take it from me? I said, fuck this, man. No, fuck this. Yeah. I don't do nothing else. So have you seen that? Any bad side effects from your clients? And then the shame that they can't lose weight because that was the cure-all?
Absolutely. Yeah, especially because I also have a lot of clients who have diabetes and their weight doesn't change either. Like, so even if you have diabetes and you're taking it for diabetic reasons, your body still might not change, but it might lower your numbers. Like if it's for that, wonderful. But then I have a lot of people talk about hair loss and they talk about significant digestive issues. And it kind of reminds me of gastric bypass. And there's a lot of long-term complications from that as well that you're not really told about in the process. Like no one's thinking long term. They're just like, hey, you'll be skinny and all your problems will go away. But most of those cure-alls have a lot of digestive issues associated with them and don't always actually lead to consistent weight loss. I'm pretty sure Ozempic has only been tested for like 2 years. Like maybe it's 3. And that's as far as they've even looked at it. So they have no idea what its longevity is
Impacts.
or if it has any long-term side effects.
They're saying it's going to be pretty bad. And they're saying it's going to cause massive eating disorders long-term. Massive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Spence will, go for this. I mean, right after I took that shot, I haven't been the same. I was straight. Now I'm gay.
Yeah. You sleeping in a bed with your best friend. I think that might have.
We were just wrestling.
No, it was the Ozempic.
You were cuddling.
It was Ozempic. It was vaccines. That's what it was.
All the vaccines. They shouldn't have vaccinated me when I was an infant.
Vaccines make you gay. That's what Joe Rogan believes.
Autistic or gay.
Autistic or gay.
Autistic.
Fucking
You
Joe
choose.
Rogan. Fucking guy. All right. Back to Spence.
All right. So the next scene, we have their first time meeting Tony. And he explains how he was once, he was 319 pounds. Yeah.
At 12.
19 pounds. At 12. That's crazy. And how, he lost weight and now he's going to help everybody else lose weight as well. And so, we're talking about how these people who were fat at one point, but now they're skinny, and now they've turned to being fat phobic. They've turned into the bullies that once bullied them, right? So, what's kind of the thinking behind this? Why do people kind of make that switch, and then all of a sudden their mentality switches as well?
Yeah. If you ask any fat person, they'll tell you that like the biggest bully is an ex-fat, is that they will go for the jugular because they got the pat. Like, so I like to think of this, how we judge people as a body hierarchy, and that includes other intersectionalities as well. But if someone was like two fat people were level and then someone lost weight, they're like, oh, well, I'm now above you and I'm better than you. And all of my problems went away and I'm riding this high of being validated constantly. And so I'm going to fixate on how much I hate that version of me that was fat. And when I see it in other people, I'm going to like go hard. And it's bad. It's really, really bad.
Did you know that was a thing? I didn't know that was a thing until recently, like within the last year.
That fat people or ex-fats are mean.
Jesus, the way she said it.
That was blunt.
Ex-fats. So, real quick. So you're pretty out there with it, right? Is it say on their Instagram that autistic, correct? Does it say that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yep. I thought so. I was like, hopefully I'm not outing anyone right now.
No, I'm not outing here.
Yeah. So this is a funny thing, right? So that was very fucking blunt. Magnificent. Love it. I remember telling Spence, I said, yeah, we got this Mexican girl coming on the podcast. He said, who is Mexican? I said, the Kayla lady, she's Mexican. And he's like, bro, she white as hell. And I was like, that's a good brown woman. And Spence like, bro, it says she's white in her profile. And I was like, yeah, I've been catfished. I mean, she's probably not even fat. She's probably not even fat.
So, the ultimate cat. I think I was really tan in my picture though. So, and I'm from California. Do I get any credit for that?
We eat some tacos? What you saying? She's like, I earned this with my people. I just love that Spencer's like, you're a fucking idiot. It says in their profile. I was like, whatever, man. Whatever. But yeah, back to the point is X-Fats. I didn't know that was a thing until within the last year, and I'm actually ashamed that I didn't know that sooner. I mean, hell, I've seen heavyweights. Spencer, when this come out in the 90s?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now this is just a thing that I'm aware of because I've had some clients come in that have lost weight, and they're like horrific to other people. I've never seen it where they've been verbally horrific to other people. I've seen it where they've lost weight and now they're scared that they're going to be fat. And so like they'll look at other people and they'll be like kind of ill, but never directly mean to people. And that was, I'm not gonna lie, that was heartbreaking to see that. That was, I was like, you son of a bitch. This is what you did.
Yeah. Right. But can you imagine like the mind fuck of knowing that you're being treated poorly, and then when you lose weight, however means you get there, suddenly everyone's nice to you. Like it has to mess something up on a psychological level when it comes to belonging and like survival, and that they're trying to hold on to that as hard as they can, but it's causing a lot of trauma to the people that they're trying to shove under them.
Spence, don't you lose no weight now, you son of a bitch.
I have to lose weight or else my knees are going to give out again.
Okay. So I can co-sign that weight loss. Mass medical.
Trying not to get hurt again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try not to have this skinny woman break my heart.
Oh, here we go.
That was a joke.
They always do.
They always do. Real quick, when he introduces himself, when you see that, do you see that as, do you think like people, that's how people actually present, is like this machismo, right? This is, hey, I'm going to show all you fatties how to do it. I mean, I feel like that how diet culture actually is right now, but I mean, do you think it's like that?
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot, and there's a lot of body positive creators that we're trying to spread a wonderful message about being accepting in their larger bodies, and they go on a diet and their body starts to shift and they become very angry towards other people that they were trying to heal, and it becomes very, very painful to the fat community when that happens, and it's happening a lot right now, especially with Ozempic and things like that. So yeah, you definitely see it a lot, and I forgot the question.
No, you're good. I'm shaking my head and going like this to Spencer, because those fake ass people were just doing it to get likes in a hustle.
They were.
That's it. Yeah.
And I think the insidious part of it is, if I'm like, my feed is mostly fat people at this point. Like I'm in deep. And if I'm scrolling and I haven't seen your stuff in a while, I'm in the fat liberation world. Join us. It's great. If I haven't seen you on my feed in a while, and I'm just scrolling my follows or like the people on my For You page, and then you pop up telling me how much you hate fat people, I'm like, come on, man, I was following you and you were safe. And then you come out of nowhere and sucker punch me. And that really sucks.
You come out of nowhere with some detox tea, you motherfucker.
Exactly. I'm like, wait, what happened? I thought we were good.
Yeah. Just for that, I'm about to sexualize the shit out of you. I'm joking. Yeah, man. Pause. Sarcasm and inappropriate jokes aside, that is fucked up. That's insidious. To be an advocator and then to rile people up in positivity and love yourself, and then you turn and you flip the coin. I mean, I don't even know what that would be for me and Spencer. That would be like, hey, let's be funny, quirky, weird, autistic, unmasked, inappropriate. And then people be inappropriate with us, and I guess we tell them, you suck, be professional?
Yeah, maybe. Pretty much.
Mask, maybe? Or you're too autistic.
You're too autistic for us. We've been cured.
Took that goddamn vaccine, that's what it was. It cured me. It was that and Jesus.
Jesus always finds a way.
Jesus
or stop eating red dye.
Yeah, heard that shit a lot. They were like, red dye is causing you acne. I'm like, shut the fuck up. My sister used to tell me that shit. So you stop eating all that hot sauce and Doritos. sis, don't make me shame you right now for some other shit that I know.
That's why you stop eating Doritos and you're just like, stop it.
No,
Stop it.
I just had a whole bag yesterday.
That's good.
The big
That's real
bag.
good.
It's real good.
Family size. Jesus.
Real quick, I'm gonna pivot back. When they're hiding all them goddamn candies and the one candy eats the candy off the kid's body, I mean, I feel like there's a lot, maybe like
Salty.
one or two weird autistic like ADHD kids that would do that. Like would they understand like germs and shit? But I feel like most of the people that watch this scene are gonna get like deeply terrified.
It's gross. So salty.
Better watch out. You got chocolate on you. Fat kid will come out of nowhere and just get you. Like the book.
And you know that shit was sweaty as hell too.
Yeah.
So quick question, Spence. Spence, just for you. So that kid pulled out about 5 different sausages, and I only seen a couple of them in his belt. So where did he get the rest of them sausages?
You know what? That's between him and God, really. You know.
You know, I'm not king shaming, but goddamn, you know.
I think you are.
This motherfucker, who brings in a whole loaf of pepperoni and salami? Like that's the shit.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you got. You go to fan cab, you better come loaded.
You better bring that sausage.
Hey, real quick. I mean, Kayla was the one saying innuendos. She's like, I'm in there deep.
Zero judgment over here?
No judgment over here. Hey, you know. I gotta go on. All right, Spencer. Next scene.
Yes. So the next scene is the weigh-in between all of the campers. And so we have, of course, our new German counselor, because it's a counselor. You know, then they're taking pictures of them in their before evaluations. And Kenan Thompson's character breaks the camera. You broke my camera.
You fatty.
But I mean, hey, we always have these before pictures on all these different commercials and stuff like that, and how they're all very sad when they always look sad every time in the before pictures. They're never like before.
It's really hard to find any stock images of fat people that are crying over a sandwich or something.
True. They probably had like a sandwich right there and then taking the picture and like, you act sad, you get it.
Right? Like it's just like who's volunteering for this type of ridicule?
Yeah.
So kind of like what I mean, when you're watching like those, like have you ever seen like those TV commercials now? Like what do you think about when you see those, like those before after pictures and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, the first thing I think is that most of them are fake because it's very easy to edit those things. And people have come forward saying that they were hired to be a before for somebody's after or something because they're trying to sell you a product, right? And it's spreading that message of, well, this is how awful and ugly you look now and not lovable, gluttonous, lazy, whatever you want to put in there that people like to associate with fatness. And then if you take our product, you will be thin and be lovable and all of your problems will go away. And we have a huge issue with before and after photos online. And a lot of people who talk about having done that were in big restriction spaces and having disordered relationships with food. And they're using those pictures for external validation for a disordered relationship with food. And there's a saying in my world where it's like, you're not a before picture, you're a whole ass human.
Like that. Yeah, I like that. You'll see it a lot. And I love a lot of women in the kind of like that bodybuilding like diaspora because
oh yes,
they'll show, and some of them have disordered eating themselves. Many of them are going to be autistic as shit. But besides the point is a lot of them are very open with their bodies and they'll talk about it and they'll show themselves eating, right? Because you have to have a lot of calories to keep that amount of mass on you. A lot of calories. And they'll show them just sitting down and bloated after their workout and their meal. And they'll be like, look, they'll take a picture of their stomach. This is a real body.
I love that.
And then they'll show them like after they've dieted and shredded for like a show or something like that, and they're like, this is the after. This is like this product that you see, but my normal weight is pretty big, pretty fluffy. Or they'll be like, girls don't fall for it. And then you're right, and they show you the video where they're standing up and they pose at a certain angle versus just being kind of hunched over or sitting down, and you're like, oh, the body looks different in different ways. And they'll show how like a lot of these social media pictures not only are photoshopped, but also it's depending on angles and then lighting. And there's this one guy, I don't know if like, you know, maybe he's toxic. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like enjoy him. I think Spencer knows about him too. He'll take the pictures and show you how all these like models and fitness people will edit all their photos.
Yeah. Goob.
Oh yeah. I think it's really cool to see.
I like it because it sets the reality of like, maybe not everything I see on social media is real. And, you know, a lot of people will say like he's hating on people. And I'm like, he's helping out a lot of people by showing this. And then people will call him a fat ass. Well, you're a big fat ass and you're lazy and you wish you could look like them. And then he like starts repping out 400 pounds benching and you're like, holy shit.
He was also like like a bodybuilder too.
Yeah, no,
like that.
Bodybuilder
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he used to look like that, but then he was like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. It's not, you can't keep that up all the time. You literally like starve and you have to dehydrate yourself like every show to do that.
It's unhealthy.
And so yeah, he does a great thing with the body dysmorphia and just how like even these people who look amazing already without edits and stuff like that, they just add on other shit or make their waist smaller or their legs bigger. And it doesn't really make sense because you're just like, you already look great. Why are you doing this? Why are you editing your photos?
And Kayla, I'm going to ask you something. If these people got to edit their photos, like Spencer was just talking about, and he's showing me some of the clips too, because he's the one that put me on this guy. If you're like this symmetrical, shredded, right, this prime looking athlete, and you got to edit your photos, I mean, well, shit, I ain't got no shot with my Tinder picture. I mean, they're going to be like, look at this potato with legs.
Yeah, I refuse to edit or use anything like because of just that reason. As I feel like we shouldn't have to manipulate all of ourselves to make the Instagram gods happy. I think it's just we're supposed to be human. Like we're supposed to have like texture and lines and zits and all those things. Like it's very silly that we pretend we don't have any of those things.
There's so much shame no matter what size you are, no matter what color, gender. You know, hair length, just everything is just, why do we just hate everything?
Yep. Well, like everything, we only like things that are Eurocentric. So like the thin white ideal is our fixation and thus demonizing everything else.
But the thing is, with me and my clients, they still hate themselves too.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, well, nobody wins. And so it's just this fucking monster that just wins. It's a sad world. We all are fat camp, Spence.
We sure are. We sure are.
You're the fattest kid at camp.
All right. So next scene. This is actually the dance scene. Where Tony brought in like girls from a girl camp and they wanted to do a dance and pretty much humiliate the boys into losing weight that way by saying like, oh, these girls won't dance with you because you're fat. But then at the end of the day, they all start dancing together and look at that. They get the ladies. I mean, kid was wearing a Les Mis shirt, so I was like, I don't know if that helps your case there. I don't think so. But hey,
no.
Ladies love Les Mis, so hey.
We talking about the little British kid?
Yeah, or no, I think it was like the redheaded kid.
Oh, okay.
With the glasses.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. So, you kind of wanted to talk about just how fat kids are not attractive to girls. So
why you hate fat people, Kayla?
Why?
Well, that's the messaging that you're getting from that scene, right? Is the assumption that because they're fat, though, like the girls aren't going to want to dance with them. And this is why I do like the movie, because it really does have a lot of like humanizing of fat people, but then also extremely fatphobic in that the assumption immediately is, oh, those thin girls are not going to want to engage with us because we are fat boys, and that they're going to use this as a way to motivate us to lose weight because you'll lose weight because you want to be loved, when fat people are loved and they have great relationships. So it's wildly inaccurate.
Is it, you think women, from what we've said, we feel like women have it a little bit worse in like these situations when it comes to being wanted and like neglected? What was the word? Like almost invisible?
Yeah. Is that like women report that men won't even look in their general direction because they don't exist if they're in a larger body. And so there's also this idea of scarcity, and that you have to accept really poor treatment from a partner because you're fat and you deserve that. I mean, like, you're lucky someone's even given you a chance, kind of thing. And it gets used as an abuse reason in a lot of DV situations. So it can be really insidious and have a lot of really negative consequences.
I forgot about that. I'm sure you see that a lot in the clients that you work with, those dynamics. How do you help?
If you think you're not deserving of anything, then you're not going to have boundaries.
How do you help someone navigate? Because you can't be like, leave their ass. You can't like fully say that, or maybe you can.
You can't really say that.
No.
Like, I think it's more of building a sense of worth that isn't completely reliant on external validation, and that none of us are given the skills to build a sense of self-worth that isn't reliant on our appearance, which screws everyone over because I know they retire women's value at like 32 or something. It's ridiculous. And so I'm not sure what the age is for men, but that's usually the messaging we get. So like everyone gets knocked off this ride eventually. So you might as well, regain some power and choose not to ride it.
I was thinking, I said, I know that might 32 might be for like one race. I feel like, yeah.
Okay, agree.
Yeah.
Note received and accepted.
Sounds like an old broad.
Yeah, I feel like Spence, you got Spence and his people, they're gonna last a while.
Let me tell you something. I've dabbled in the older. All right. Fun people.
Fun people. Okay.
Yeah.
We talking geriatric?
Okay. That's not, took your teeth out.
Hey. Good looking too, they experience. What was I going to say? I feel like sometimes when I'm serious note, I feel like when I'm working with clients and I feel like it's an abusive or manipulative or narcissistic where they're trying to isolate them from everyone else and they're using them as like their punching bag. I'm like, so sounds pretty unhealthy. I'm not gonna lie. If someone was to do that to me, I'd be pretty upset. Like what you're saying, well, I don't mean to speak bad about my partner. They're a really good person. I said, no, I'm sure they're magnificent. But, and this is a big old but, there's some things going on here that don't align with being a good person. There's some things aligning with how they're treating your kids that doesn't align with being a good parent. Doesn't matter what gender.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh. And I said, I want you to keep note of these things when you feel like you're being this or this or this, and they're making you do this and this and this. Pay attention. See if it's always good and you're just, for some reason, you're always bringing me the bad. So is there a lot of bad, or is it just the things where's the good at? Tell me where the good is. Tell me where it is. Well, I guess there ain't that much. We just mostly fight. I'm like, oh, okay. So I feel like sometimes it's leading someone right to water, without directly telling them, hey man, this is terrible. Like this is shit that like you press charges for type of thing. It's a tough situation, but you're right. We've talked about it before. We believe that we can do anything to fat bodies. we can hurt them or do them physically sexual deviant things, and it doesn't matter because they don't have feelings because they're not worthy of it. They're not a full person.
Yeah.
Which is really sad. And I never really knew that. I knew that, but I really didn't know it until I started reading the literature within the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Quick
The
question.
level of dehumanization is a lot.
So question for you, and then we'll get to the next scene. Is this starting to become more of a topic now? This hate, this fatphobic, this dehumanization of folks in larger bodies? I feel like this is more in the last 3 to 5 years that I've been hearing it.
I mean, fat liberation has been around since the 70s.
Okay.
And the 90s, and it was spearheaded by fat queer individuals, fat queer Black individuals, actually.
Correct.
So it's been around. It's getting more leeway, I think, as we have access to things like TikTok and Instagram. But currently, we're actually in a resurgence of the heroin chic era. So unfortunately, we're getting some hit back, and we're losing a lot of clothing access that we once had.
Yeah.
So it's like this pendulum that just swings back and forth. But there are way more safer communities now that didn't exist, I imagine, before because of our access to internet.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm gonna kind of tie these two scenes since they're 2 minutes apart from one another.
Go ahead.
So they have the weigh-in scene where throughout the movie they've been sneaking in foods and stuff like that, and once they come into the second weigh-in, they actually have been gaining weight instead of losing weight. So then we see Tony lose his shit there, and he's talking about little Tony. We'll speak on that in a minute. But then we also have the next scene where we're kind of talking about how just the binging, right? And how a fat man is trying to tell me how to be healthy. And so Tony kind of goes off on Pat and saying how are you going to tell me what's healthy and what's not? Huh? Because you're fat. So let's talk about little Tony for a second. Little Tony. He's having this meltdown. I know, Naz, you want to talk about this. What about this scene did you want to talk about, especially with little Tony? There he is.
I feel like this is a dramatization of what happens internally with us all the time as you're trying to console this little kid. Spence, we just had a magnificent podcast with I think Cynthia Perez about the little one inside and how she's trying to heal a lot of Latinx, Latina women that have gone through a lot of trauma. And this young boy went through a lot of trauma, and he's talking to little Tony. But in actuality, little Tony was probably a little fat kid. And he's having this, dynamic talk back and forth, but then it gets perverted. Then it gets where he's like, no, let's blame them. They're the monsters, right? They're hurting you. It becomes angry and maleficent. And it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? How did we get off the rails to now hating others? And the one kid's like, he's cuckoo. And I went like he's cuckoo too. But in actuality, that's a very good thing I teach a lot of my clients. You're going to see a lot of neurodivergent, autistic folks talk to themselves in those two voices. We teach a lot of people with OCD, with anxiety, Spencer, to do this. Create these different personalities. That way you can separate the disorder from this entity of who you are. But then he gets consumed by the disorder. For me, it would be the eating disorder that he has, or body dysmorphia, or just internalized hate, because that's what it is. Yeah. And you find out that he never got any love from his dad, and he's just looking for affection from his dad. And maybe the dad didn't give it to him because he's all about money. He was a fat kid, doesn't really want to pay attention to him, embarrassment. And so now he's taking out all his traumas from his father in relationship out onto others. And I hate seeing this, because now you've become your worst fear. You've become your nightmare. You become the boogeyman. And it's heartbreaking. And you see him almost do the work, and then it goes right into hatred, and then the hatred for others. So sad scene, funny fucking scene, very well acted. And they make fun of him for talking to himself, which I laugh, but it's actually not funny. I think it's what a lot of people need to do. If you have to do it out loud, awesome. But internally, do it. I mean, I'm in my head doing that all the time. I'm doing it right now because I just fucked up my car, and I'm like, you stupid motherfucker. You'll never be anything, you son of a bitch. And you're fat too. You're right. We're doing a podcast, and now you're right. They're telling you you're fat, Nas. I mean, I'll be fine. My dad's like, who gives a fuck? Like, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, recenter, dumbass. You've got this. Okay, let's do a podcast. But yeah, Kayla, why'd you pick this scene specifically when he's getting like shamed? The fat guy, he thinks he knows things.
Well, I think a funny part of that is that ask any fat person, we're very well versed in dieting. We know all of the things because most of us have been doing it our whole lives. And that doesn't mean that we're failing at it. It's just that they don't work because genetically we might be just existing in a larger body. So the assumption that the man based on his body size could never understand any health pieces, we have no way of understanding either of their health markers to see which one is the healthier person. And that's a hard thing too. And kind of going back to what you said earlier about how it also harms thin people, if we're assuming that thin people are healthy, then they're not being diagnosed properly for medical ailments they might have because they're not being tested for them.
Yeah.
Because of those assumptions. It hurts everybody.
Well, Kayla, you know, if you just eat less,
if you just eat less, then you will eventually. That's the pendulum. If you have scarcity, you will find food, and your body will win. Unless you go really deep into an eating disorder, and then it's really, really dangerous.
Yep. That's just a trope that everyone says, right? Eat less, and then walk.
Eat less. Calories in, calories out.
You need to be in a deficit. Yeah, bitch, I know how math works.
And as a therapist, my Fitness Pal is a obsessive tool. I don't know if it's still used. It's been a while since I've been traumatized by that.
Oh, wow.
But you're putting in every food item that you have ever consumed, every movement you've ever consumed, and we're saying that that's a healthy behavior. Like, how is that a healthy behavior?
Well, the app gave me a smiley face when I lost 200 calories.
It told me that I was going to lose X amount. And a lot of times those apps are giving you calories that your body, calories isn't really measurable. It's very different by each person. But your body, they'll give you like this ridiculously low calorie count that can't even run your organs, let alone if you're actually moving around that day.
I second that.
And that's very bad for your body.
I love when my watch tells me you got up and walked. I'm like, I'm literally just peeing. Like, don't.
I'm literally just peeing.
Good job.
Good job, you fatty.
Oh,
how do I turn off these notifications from my smartwatch?
I think that might be just self-talk.
Little Nas. Actually, we should invest in like a nagging smartwatch. I feel like that would sell.
You're an asshole. My God, you're right.
Put that sandwich down, you fatty. Jesus.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm pause. All jokes aside though, like I do get a little weirded out when I'll be like, I pull out the hot Cheetos and I'm like, you son of a bitch, just stop eating the hot Cheetos. Just put it down. And I'm like, I can't do it. It tastes good.
Then that's scarcity, if you think about it. If you feel like you're not going to have access to that food item. So the idea that we can't have food in our house because we'll eat it out of control, that's an unhealthy relationship with food. Like the goal is to get to a point, and we've all known people like this, who they can just like stare at a piece of chocolate and not want to eat it because they're full. Because they always have access to that chocolate, or they always have access to those Doritos. And that if I gave you Doritos every single day or Cheetos every single day, full access, you know what's eventually not going to be that fun anymore? Cheetos. Because the scarcity's gone.
Colin, man, anytime I buy any snacks for him, he demolishes them, Spence. I bought him a box of fruit snacks. Within 3 days, the whole box of fruit snacks is gone. He said, "Nas, my stomach hurts." I'm like, "You ate 250 fruit snacks."
Yeah, he's something else. He's just like garbage.
Autism is strong in that one, girl.
Yeah, he's something else.
So before we get to the last scene, so when it comes to ADHD folks and autistic folks, Do we have a lot of like binging related things?
Our relationship with food is extremely different and very interesting. For one, some of us who struggle with like interoception or just connections with our body in general, we might be really detached from our hunger cues, which is a big issue, obviously, because we can't figure out how to feed ourselves. Also, a lot of us have sensory issues with food, so we have to figure out how to sneak in food from a practical standpoint. So it's almost like another layer to intuitive eating is how do I get the stuff that I need when I think most stuff is gross? And that's how you kind of work around it. And that's more of the autistic piece. For the ADHD piece, because you are dopamine deficient, you might seek out food more to meet that need. And that causes like its own separate issue that you have to detangle as well. So there's actually specific dietitians that work with autism and ADHD from an intuitive eating perspective, and I find their work really cool because they're going through like, oh, I have snacks all the time available to me because my ADHD makes it really hard for me to A, remember that I'm hungry, and B, make myself food. And so that's how they get nutrients and food they like into their bodies. Okay. And the goal at the end of the day is to just be able to take care of yourself without all of the shame and the judgment.
Okay.
All right. And then the last scene we have here, so after Tony takes all the kids out on a hike, like a 30-mile hike, something like that, they capture Tony and they imprison him and like all of his minions, and so after that they pretty much have access to all of the food that he like stole away, and then they all just have this big binge party where they just go crazy on all the food, have a like pretty much like, what was it called? I think, what was that movie? Was it like The Fly? I forgot what it was called. But there's this movie, and they all just go native. They go crazy, and they just start eating all the foods. And then, of course, Pat's like, maybe I should go down and help them. And then, of course, his skinny lady's just like, no, you don't need to eat that food. You're right.
Yeah, that was right. Weird.
You're right. I don't need it. I don't need it. I just need to sit here next to my lady. Yep. That's it. Yeah. And then afterwards, they feel the effects of all that food and consumption. And then Pat gives them a talking to. We need responsibility for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
What was the reason why you wanted to do this scene?
I think there's a lot of layers to that scene. One, in that if you have scarcity, when I give you food, you're going to eat past your fullness threshold as a way to store food for later. So, and if you're really hungry, you're going to seek out foods that are richer in fats to ensure that it'll hold you longer. Like if you're really hungry and you eat a salad, you're only going to be full for X amount of times if there's not enough fat in the salad, because that sustains you. So how you are attracted to food shifts based on if you're in scarcity or restriction mode. So they're in scarcity and they are basically eating themselves into food comas. There's a lot of morality around food in this show or in this movie as well, where the foods they're picking are specifically foods that we vilify as bad foods, and even naming a food as bad makes us want it more because it's, again, the scarcity mentality. And then I thought it was interesting, the motivational speech from Pat, because he was so close to doing a really good job. Like this movie really like toes that line, because he wanted to teach them how to care for themselves. And that is beautiful. But when we do it through a dieting lens, that's where the problems come in, when it's about restriction. And so when he's talking, he's like, you need self-respect, and you're not going to get self-respect if you don't have control. That verbiage isn't going to make anybody feel good nor want to take care of themselves from a respectful or loving space. It's going to make them feel bad and probably go into another restriction binge cycle.
Yeah, because as soon as you backslide or Jesus, what's it called? As soon as you start abusing these things again, you're gonna go back into that shame spiral again, right? It's just like when you're working with alcohol and other drugs. As soon as you go back, it's like fuck, and so that self-respect goes right down the tube with all that effort that you put in. Yeah, I saw that.
So if the body is wired to protect you in this way, and society tells you that you need to go on these restrictive diets, and then they tell you that you're a failure for your body doing what it's doing to protect you, that's a really confusing message.
Yeah. I like that.
It also makes it hard to take care of yourself in general.
Oh, 100%. I liked it that first scene, Spence, because it's just like one, them strawberries in a jar taste like shit. Just gonna put that out there. I'm not a fan of them. But it looks like so much fun that they're having. Just eating, chilling, having fun. I mean, that looks like a fun ass party instead of just everyone being drunk as shit and then fights breaking out. I mean, in a mosh pit.
It was like they're drunk. That was like Disney's drunk.
Yeah, that's Disney's drunk.
Yeah, they all woke up with hangovers. So.
they all been there. I know one thing after, I don't know about everyone listening, but when you drunk as hell and then you get that food at 2:00 in the morning and then you're like, damn, and you wake up sick as hell and you're like, well, am I sick because of 17 tacos I had or a half gallon of alcohol?
Or both.
I just thought it's just a very fun scene where you get to see all these kids just be happy for the first time. One of the few times in the movie. And there's no shame. They're just having fun. Fireworks are going off for some reason. I don't even know who the fuck's lighting those. You got this
Their
guy.
camaraderie is awesome.
It is. No one will love you like a fat person. No one will love you. Yeah, it's just good scenes. And that lives like in my head too. Like when we get in a box of pizza, or we get in a couple boxes of pizza, or like anytime I see that big ass Subway sandwich, fucking 7 foot longer, I'm like, I just want to hold it, but then I would never do that because if it fell, I would be depressed.
Yeah, it would be very sad.
Oh, I'd be so sad. I'd be like,
we're allowed to like food. If you're an existing larger body, you're allowed to enjoy food. It gives us euphoria for a reason. Like you get the dopamine for a reason.
Me and Spence
also enjoy it.
Me and Spence were on a trip and we were at that pizza place and I was like, Spence, I got to take a picture of this shit.
Yeah. You did all right. You took a picture, all right. And you ate my slice, you son of a bitch. I'll never forgive you for that.
I know. I was thinking.
I had 3 slices. All of a sudden, I had 2. Like, what the
I'll buy you a hot and ready.
I don't want that bullshit. Hot and ready.
It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Overall, when you watched this movie back in the day, were you like, this is some good stuff, or were you skeptical back then? Did this movie make you feel like seen, or what was the emotion?
I probably did really like the camaraderie. I don't think I had any awareness. Yeah, other than that it was cool to see that many fat people in one place, but I don't think I had any awareness. I think I was still very deep in like body failure stuff, so it wouldn't have been able to see it through that lens. Yeah, which is unfortunate because we do need more exposure to people in different bodies. It would just be nice to have that without the fat jokes associated with it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. So before we go, any plugs?
Oh yeah, I started a podcast called Fat Positive Everything Podcast, and it is out now. And I interview guests weekly about what they do in their fat liberation work, and it's been a good time so far. Nice. So listen.
Where do we find it?
Oh, Spotify, Substack, Apple, all those places. I don't know. I'm honestly very new to all of this, and I'm just guessing half the time. So,
all right. Well, maybe next time you'll have it down. There we go.
Next time I'll be like really well versed in it.
Okay.
There you go. And where can people find you on Instagram?
Instagram and TikTok are fat positive therapist. One word.
Nice. All right, there we go. Thank you for coming on. Would love to have you on again. Yeah, really appreciate you. And with that, I'm Spencer. That's Nas. Different Spectrum Podcast.
All right, everyone. Peace. Much love. And remember, take care of yourselves. I was taking a pause.
Or don't.
That's completely up to you. Bye.